Black screen. A heavy heartbeat. Silence. Then the narrator's voice enters, low, deep, as if from eternity. What have I told you? That the greatest journeys do not begin with certainty, but with an impossible promise. Darkness dissolves. Myriads of stars burst forth, blazing across the heavens. A solitary figure, Abraham stands upon a desert ridge, his eyes lifted upward. Long ago, in a land of kings and countless idols, lived a man named Abram. Not a king, not a warrior, not a hero. A man without an heir. His name carried no future. His tent carried no children's laughter. Evening. A barren tent. Sarah sits at the entrance, hands folded on her knees. Her gaze is weary, heavy, as though life itself pressed upon her shoulders. And into the silence of his days came a voice. Not the muttering of stone idols, not the crackle of fire on altars, but the voice of the living God. And he said, "Pause, slow, weighty. Leave your land, leave your father's house. Go, to the land I will show you." Wind rises, lifting clouds of dust around the tents. Abraham grips his staff tightly. His family stares with fear and confusion. Neighbors whisper, scoffing, shaking their heads. Imagine the impossible. To leave it all. The home of your birth. The land where your ancestors lie buried. The city where voices of friend and foe still echo. To leave it behind for a path unseen, for a future undefined, for a promise too vast for the human heart. Night deepens, and the stars pierce the sky with greater brilliance. Abraham steps from the tent, face lifted heavenward. And God said, "Pause, solemn resounding, I will give you a son. From your own body an heir will come. From your household I will raise a nation, and through you all the families of the earth will be blessed." The camera rises slowly to the boundless heavens. Stars multiply. Abraham and Sarah wander across barren lands, their caravans small against vast deserts and mountains. Endless sands stretch in all directions, swallowing their footsteps into silence. Faith is no easy road. It is not paved with clarity. It is carved through the thorns of doubt, the stones of delay, the fire of ridicule. Villagers laugh as the caravan passes. Fingers point, lips curl in scorn. A soldier sneers, spitting in the dust as Abraham walks by. Year after year, promise after promise, yet no child. Time was not their ally. It was their accuser. Sarah's hair turned silver. Her womb remained as stone. And whispers grew louder, like a chorus of mockery carried on every wind. Pause. Where is this God of yours? Where is the son he spoke of? Where is your nation? Night. Sarah weeps quietly in her tent, her hands trembling against her face. Outside, Abraham kneels, his voice breaking in prayer. Firelight flickering against his worn features. Lord, will my servant inherit my house? Have I trusted in vain? The desert sky bursts with stars. God's voice echoes like thunder, yet tender as a father's breath. But again, the voice came. Not with reason, not with explanations men could weigh or measure, but with vision. Abraham stands beneath the heavens. The stars blaze brighter, filling the sky like living embers. God's words roll through the night. Look to the heavens. Count the stars if you can. So shall your offspring be. Abraham falls to his knees, his chest heaving, his eyes flooded with tears, torn between fear and trembling hope. And Abraham believed. He believed, though reason called it foolish. He believed, though decades passed in silence. He believed, and it was counted to him as righteousness. Inside the tent, Sarah's face is weary, her eyes shadowed by years of disappointment. Hagar the servant stands nearby, hesitant, uneasy. Perhaps God means another way. Take Hagar, build a son through her, at least. At least let us not die forgotten. Abraham's face twists in anguish. He hesitates, torn between faith and despair. Yet he yields. Hagar bears him a son Ishmael. But human shortcuts cannot replace divine promises. Ishmael was indeed a son of Abraham, flesh of his flesh, yet not the son of the covenant. And with his birth came tension, jealousy, and grief. Sarah's anger bursts forth. She pushes Hagar away, her voice sharp, her heart breaking. Abraham watches, sorrow written deep in his eyes, his spirit heavy with division. Conflict rose, pain deepened, and still the promised child did not come. The years pressed on like iron weights. The silence of God was a trial greater than famine, greater than exile. Heat shimmers at midday. 3 mysterious visitors approach Abraham's tent, their presence radiant, cloaked in a golden light. Abraham rushes to meet them, bowing low, offering bread, water, and rest. And then, when Abraham was 100 years old, when Sarah's laughter had soured into bitterness, the Lord came again. Not with armies, not with thunder from the heavens, but with quiet visitors bearing impossible words. The 3 men sit beneath the tree, breaking bread. One of them speaks, his eyes steady, his tone both gentle and unshakable. By this time next year, Sarah will bear a son. From within the tent, Sarah listens, her body stiff. She covers her mouth as bitter laughter slips out, sharp and wounded. After I am old, shall I know delight again? The visitor turns. His gaze pierces the tent wall, as if it were glass. Sarah freezes in terror as his voice cuts. Dawn breaks. A single shaft of light pierces the horizon. From the silence of Abraham's camp, a cry breaks forth, not of despair, but of life, the cry of a newborn child. And then it happened, against the weight of years, against the law of flesh, against the whispers of impossibility. A child was born, Isaac. Laughter restored, promise fulfilled. Inside the tent, Sarah cradles the infant. Tears roll down her face, each drop a testimony to years of sorrow undone in a single moment. Her lips tremble as joy overwhelms her heart. God has brought me laughter, and all who hear of this will laugh with me. Abraham lifts Isaac high toward the heavens, his voice breaking, his eyes wet with awe. Around him, servants cheer, neighbors gasp, the impossible cradled in fragile flesh. The impossible had become reality. Faith had triumphed over sight. A barren womb had sung. An old man's arms had embraced a son, and heaven's covenant had found its flesh and blood. Shift, harsh desert sun. Hagar and Ishmael stagger through the wilderness. Their water is gone, their lips cracked, their strength failing. Ishmael collapses under the shade of a bush, his body too weak to rise. Yet God did not forget the other son. Though not the child of promise, Ishmael was still the child of Abraham's heart. In the wilderness, where dust drank their tears, the Lord heard the boy's cry. Hagar sinks to the ground, covering her face. Then a flash of light. An angel stands before her, pointing toward a hidden well shimmering in the distance. Hagar rushes, fills her skin with water, and presses it to Ishmael's lips. The boy drinks, his eyes open. Hope floods her soul. God raised him up. He too would become a nation, mighty and uncountable, though not the nation of the covenant. For even in mistakes, even in human weakness, God's mercy weaves redemption. Years pass. An aged Abraham, his beard white as snow, stands beside young Isaac beneath the star-filled heavens. Together they gaze upward, the boy's eyes wide in wonder, the father's eyes filled with memory. So what remains? Not wealth. Its shine fades. Not thrones. Their power crumbles. Not monuments of stone. They erode into dust. What remains is faith. Abraham kneels, placing his hand on Isaac's shoulder, his face aglow in the starlight. Faith of a man who dared to believe when belief was madness. Faith of a woman who laughed in despair and then laughed again in joy. Faith that cradled a child born of promise. A child whose line would one day bring forth the Savior of the world. Stars intensify above them, forming rivers of light that seem to pour into the earth. And so I ask you, when God whispers the impossible into your life, will you believe? When the world laughs, when time mocks, when the path ahead is hidden in shadow, will you step forward? Modern images fade. In a sick child clinging to a parent's hand, a lonely worker staring at empty streets, a weary mother holding her head in her hands. Then, brighter images healing, reconciliation, children running free, hands clasped in prayer. For faith is not relic nor myth. Faith is not buried in ancient dust. Faith is the fire that still burns. The promise still stands. The God who called Abraham still calls us today. The sky above Abraham and Isaac blazes with 1,000 stars. The camera rises higher and higher until the universe itself fills the screen. They waited. They doubted. They believed. And the world was changed. Stars expand, then collapse into a single radiant light pulsing in the darkness. Is anything too hard for the Lord?